Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be covering the best solo queue champs for each role in patch 13.5 and 13.6. So if you enjoy the content, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, the reason I'm covering this as 13.5 and 13.6 is because none of these champs are being nerfed, which is very surprising considering all these champs are 53% win rate plus, they're all really oppressive in what they do, and overall are just very strong and well placed in the current meta. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Olaf. Olaf has some really strong itemization at the moment. He can abuse Ravenous really well as an item. Conqueror, really strong on him. You don't really want to run any other rune tree. Triumph, Alacrity, Last Stand now you're gonna be your key options. You can run biscuits instead of magical footwear. You do want to run approach velocity though. It gives you a lot of sticking power. Double adaptive is almost always what you're going to want to take. The Q has a good scaling on it, and just overall having a lot more damage for your early game where you already have a lot of inherent attack speed from your passive is quite nice. You can run health, armor, or magic resist. These are all strong options. For the rest of the build, you don't really want to go anything other than D-Blade start. Stride Breaker is nice for sticking onto people. Triforce is heavily underrated as an option, but overall I'd recommend Stride Breaker. Avoid going Jack Show. It's not as strong as people kind of perceive it as being, even though it's his most commonly built second option. I'd recommend Stride Breaker. For third option, usually Sterix or Cleaver. Both these options are pretty good. You can also go something like Death Stance and more. GA is also another good option. You can build into more tankiness. Things like Randuins, Fawns, Spirits, Gargoyles do work as like later options into the build, so you can have choices there. Overall, there's a lot of adaptability with Olaf. He's really powerful of what he can do. Flash Ghost, Ghost TP, Ghost Ignite all work really well as summoner spell pairings. Just adapting to what you're against can give you a lot of power. For jungle, Jarvan is going to be my choice. I think Jarvan is by far and away the best jungler in the game at the moment. If you go something like red pot with red or green swipe, this is kind of what you want to go as your starter. Eclipse is heavily underrated on this champion. Most people usually ping it and like will flame you for going it. I don't know why, considering it is so good on a champion. It's just people doing a lack of research, I guess. Gordranker isn't a bad option, just Eclipse really outperforms it at the moment. So definitely don't sleep on this option. Cleaver is almost always going to be your second option. Picking up an early stopwatch though is never a bad idea, as you can itemize into GA. Of course, you can go things like Randuins, Anathemas, Frozen Heart as later options, but because of the way Jarvan wants to play, I wouldn't recommend going anything other than raw AD options unless you're going very utility heavy on Jarvan, where you're going something maybe like the Radiant. But yeah, Death Stance and more, both pretty good options. For build, for runes, Conqueror, Triumph, Alacrity is just the best out of the three at the moment on champs which can't really abuse Bloodline. And then Last Stand, Magical Footwear, Cosmic Insight are both really strong at the moment, so definitely go those for Snowball and just overall more pressure through movement speed and some of the slower uptime. Attack speed, adaptive, and either magic resist or armor are going to be your main options. You don't really want to take health, you're not looking to scale on Jarvan that much. Annie, really powerful champ at the moment, got changed a bit ago and has kind of been strong since, even though she got hotfix nerfed twice. So D-Ring start is where you're going to want to take. You can go Darkseer. I wouldn't recommend it though. D-Ring is a safer option. Liandry's, Ludens, and Rod of Ages all have fairly similar win rates. Rod of Ages obviously for more scaling and just overall sustain. Ludens for burst and Liandry's for burn. Liandry's and Rylai's make a really strong pairing, so I'd definitely recommend this as your core two. Sorks are going to be the boost you mainly want to go. You can go Lucidities, but Sorks are her best option. Shadow Flame, a really good item on Annie. You can go Rabadons and then either of the defensive options into Void stuff. All these work quite nicely. Flash Ignite is mainly going to be what you're taking in some of the spells, but you can go Flash Ghost. Ghost is kind of slept on most mages at the moment. Things like Ghost Oriana, Victor, Malzahar all work quite well. For runes, Arcane Comet is going to be your go-to. You can run Electrocute, but I'd recommend Arcane Comet with the guarantee on the stun. You can go Mana Flow. You can go the other two. I'd recommend Mana Flow though. Mana restriction can be a problem on any if you're not using your Q effectively on the minions. And Transcendence Gathering, both really strong at the moment. And then Magical Footwear and you can run a Features Market to get the early Lost Chapter. If you're maybe going for something like a Sapphire Crystal start, I'd still recommend going D-Ring start and then going for the Lost Chapter when you can afford it with Futures, but it does work. For minor runes, you can run either CDR or Adaptive, and then Adaptive, Health, Armor, Magic Resist, depending on matchup. Jinx. Sword the last one. Jinx, deep-based start. You're not really going to see any other option on ADC other than maybe Cole into lanes where you can just farm up. Kraken Slayer is going to be your go-to mythic. You can go Gale Force, however. Zerkers, IE, Bloodthirster or PD are both pretty good options. RFC does work in this slot as like a third or fourth option. Runins isn't great at the moment, so kind of advise staying away from Runins. And then the last item, you'd either want to go LDR if you need to be able to kill tanks, or GA if you need the survivability and the stasis the stasis within fights. Lethal Tempo is going to be your go-to as your main keystone. You can run a fleet, but I'd recommend Lethal most games. Presence, Triumph and Overhill all work fairly similarly on Jinx. They do different things, but have all relatively strong power levels on her. Alacrity is going to be what you're on to take, and then Cutdown is really good. You can run Coup de Grace, but I'd recommend Cutdown if you're not itemizing any health. And then for secondary runes, you can run Boots Biscuits. You can also run Absolute Gathering. You can also run Treasure Hunter and Eyeball, or Treasure Hunter and Taste of Blood. Both of these options do work. For minor runes, you want to run Attack Speed, Adaptive, and then you can run Health, Armor, Magic Resist depending on matchup. Flash Heal or Flash Exhaust are going to be your main two. You can run Flash Cleanse into matchups where you need it. Things like the Ash Arrow, where you do have to run Cleanse. Rakan, Flash Ignite or Flash Heal. Heal is slept on in like these Enchanter support kind of champs. You can run Spell Thieves as a first option. I'd recommend the AP support item though. And then for build, you can either go Radiant for more tankiness or Shirley's for more damage and U2 in that regard. Lucidities work quite nicely on Rakan. You can run Mobies and you can run Marks. These do work, but I'd recommend Lucidities over them. Zeke's is a good second option. Redemption also works quite nicely as a second option. Knights for tanking some of the damage from your ADC. Putrefier isn't as good as it used to be, and I'd definitely recommend not going this item, but it does function. And then Mikhail's not a bad item if you're needing to cleanse CC off your ADC. And then Vigilant Wardstone, not a bad item. Gives you a good last slot item if you want control woods and keep vision up on the map. For runes, Guardian is going to be your go-to. You can run Glacial. I'd recommend Guardian. Font of Life is going to be your main one at the top of this tree. Second Wind, really good rune on Rakan and most engaged supports. You can run Bone Plating, but I'd recommend Second Wind from the ADC poke, and if you're against enchanters and stuff like this. Revitalize and Unflinching both work quite nicely as well. Revitalize obviously providing more healing and shield power. Unflinching into high CC comps, both work quite well. And then for secondary runes, Zombie Ward for just getting more control over vision around bot lane. Quite a powerful rune in that regard. And then Ultimate Hunter is really powerful on Rakan. His ult is a really valuable tool. And if you can have it have more uptime within getting it up more to fight more with it, it's quite powerful. You can run CDR secondary runes. You can also run Adaptive, and then Adaptive Armor or AP or Magic Resist depending on enemy matchup, and then Health, Armor, Magic Resist for the same reason of the one above. So these are definitely going to be my recommended champs for this patch. I mean, it doesn't look like they're changing. None of these champs are being nerfed, even though they are very strong. For support, things like Senna do work quite nicely. Annie is also an incredibly strong support at the moment. ADC, things like Zeri, also really good. Mid laners, a couple of the Seraph champs, things like Cassiopeia and Anivia are going to stay really strong next patch. For junglers, Jarvan really stands quite a bit ahead of the other ones. He's simple to play, he's powerful, does a lot of damage, and can close out games early. Really what you want at the moment. And then top lane, Olaf kind of reigns supreme in that regard. But there are other champs which are pretty good. Things like Kled and Jax are also really strong at the moment. So don't sleep on them. Overall, well, those are my thoughts on the patch. These are really strong champs. Definitely recommend playing them if you want to climb. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next one. Goodbye.